One sec, I'm just gonna let this lady go. All right, so it took me a while to set this up, and I screwed up recording this morning, but I did wanted to mention a couple things. I recently watched the podcast interview. It was like the Daily Brew or the Morning Brew or something with Mark Zuckerberg. And this is the second time in the last month or less than a month that I heard founders or CEOs or leaders of a company say that pretty much that delegation is overrated and micromanagement is underrated. And so Mark talks about how it's so important to be, well, he sort of goes against, your traditional advice of delegating, and that he thinks he believes that being in the nuances and in the details of everything is so important. And I heard Brian Chesky talk about the same exact thing on another podcast called Lenny's Podcast, and several other interviews about the same thing, because Brian, who seems to be an amazing founder and CEO of Airbnb, just sounds like a really, really smart guy, says the same thing. And so it makes me wonder, how involved does a founder need to be? Because traditionally, a lot of times, especially nowadays, we're told, hey, delegate, delegate, delegate. And then you've got, successful founders who say, no, get into the details of everything. It does make me think about the way we've been running our company. Now, I think we're fortunate to be a small company, and we keep the team quite lean. There's only 11, 12 of us total. And it allows me to still be in the meat of everything. And of course, I want my team members to be able to lead and make decisions, but, lucky enough that we still are included in a lot of the decision making. So it's really interesting to hear these two talk about that. Now, I'm still, I've been doing entrepreneurial related things for over a decade now, and I still, I don't want to say, I've gotten out of the way of micromanaging. And you know what, I to be fair, they did not say that micromanaging is underrated. I did read somebody else who wrote a blog post about this. Now I'm going to be driving in circles because I've got to pick up my wife to go to the doctor in about 20 minutes, so I've got some time here to film this. So yeah, what we have going works for us, but it's interesting to hear, a lot of the advice. What works for one company may not work for another, because I certainly heard a lot of people who, delegate a lot of the decision making off to very capable people. But then again, when you look at some of the most successful companies, people like Elon Musk, the guy's into the details. Everything from knowing what's going on the factory line, sleeping on the factory line, to troubleshooting, rocket issues, even getting involved. I remember he talked about how, this was not what he talked about, but one of the YouTubers who really talks a lot about rocket engineering, made a suggestion to Elon. He got that implemented pretty much right after that. And seeing how close he is to X, and just some of these bigger companies, it's interesting to see how close the founders are to the business. Because because we're in the B2B area, it's interesting to hear a lot of people who come into the space want to delegate everything away. Now, I think there's a fine balancing point. And that's something I'm still figuring out. So if you guys have any thoughts on delegation, let me know. Anyways, the other thing I wanted to share with you guys on the marketing side, because I get a chance to work a lot on the marketing growth side, and I actually recorded this earlier, and I'm going to share my screen after this. But one of the things I believe, or we're trying right now, I can't say for a fact, but we've been building our newsletter, getting people to opt in, and then run them through our typical sales funnel, um, and nurturing those leads. But one of the things that we just recently launched was sort of an aggregate newsletter, aggregating news within our niche, within our space, going through Facebook, going through YouTube videos, going through new content, and actually like bringing that all together, tweets and all that stuff, and bringing that all together in one newsletter. And we're doing this every 2 weeks. I think we're going to try this more often, but I would love to update you guys more on this, because I have always been someone who thought, oh, you know what, people don't check newsletters anymore, until I signed up for a newsletter called The Rundown AI. And this is, you can check it out. I actually show it in the screenshot I'm going to share after this. Again, I recorded that earlier because I had recorded my videos earlier, but I realized I screwed up the recording and it didn't actually record. So we are trying this out, and it was pretty cool to see the very first one we just launched last week. I literally had messages coming to me saying how valuable that was. I've never, ever received an email telling me how, or a message how great an email newsletter was. So I'm going to share that with you guys, and we're going to continue to experiment on this, and maybe some of you guys are already doing this, but yeah, it's just an aggregate. And then I'll lead them to a call to action. So I encourage you to check that out. I'll show you in the screen recording after this. So anyways, I've got to get running here. I've drove around the block now twice. I'll see you guys. Hopefully I'll get recording first thing in the morning, sharing some of the other things that I don't know, I'm learning along the way. Yeah, anyways, enjoy the screen recording. Cool, so I just wanted to share this with you guys quickly. I talked about how our aggregate newsletter is so far getting us some good feedback, and it seems like people are engaged in it. Mind you, I don't know what I'm doing with it. Like, I don't know if it's going to be very valuable, but it is sort of top of funnel to drive people in towards. I think I will focus a lot of my marketing to get on that newsletter eventually, if it is going to be something highly engaging and it's easy to produce, because there's just so much content out there that other people are sharing, posting, and we're just sort of, again, aggregating all of that and jamming that all into a newsletter. What I'd suggest you do, especially like YouTube can be a great source if you know a couple people in the space that are up to date and sharing a lot of relevant information. Maybe they have a webinar they're throwing up or whatever. I would use Gemini, and this has been huge for us. It's pretty simple, right? You just grab the link and you prompt. So you grab the link here, and Gemini is pretty cool. You can just throw in the link, because ChatGPT will require you to actually bring in the entire transcript. So, can you summarize the 3 actionable or main takeaways from this video in a bullet point and a couple sentences above that describing what this video is about? So I'll throw in the link. I'll write, here's the video. Yeah, I think this is pretty helpful to just kind of slap this all together. Yeah, so there you go. Like, your takeaways are all here for you. And I would literally, I'm not going to get my subscribers to actually go and watch the video. I want to keep them on the email, and I want to bring as much value as quick as possible, almost like a quick hit. I would literally summarize this. If you want to check, one that I've been following, I mentioned earlier, Rundown AI. It's one that I personally really enjoy. So they've actually been archiving all of them. I think they manage their newsletters through Beehive, and that's something potentially we might look into. But yeah, you can literally read them here and see how they're sort of aggregating. I like the format they have. We don't follow this. They sort of give a summary of what they're going to talk about, the read time, the latest developments, and then they have a section. So they're summarizing a bunch of news, maybe tweets or whatnot. Then they'll have like a jobs area. They might get money through this, or they might monetize this, maybe not. They definitely have a quick hits here, which I like a lot. They do ask for engagement. I have a feeling Beehive might actually structure some of this. So you can see they also have this, they're monetizing their newsletter. And yeah, I've been obsessing over these sort of, I call them aggregate newsletters. If you're not doing something like this, I think you are missing out, because this is great for top of funnel. And then you may want to drive them towards, whatever it is. Now I think they're mainly just monetizing through ads, and that's it. I'm not 100% sure if there's something else that they're doing. I haven't really looked into the rundown. So anyways, that's a couple tools I would use to really put these things together. You're really, again, just aggregating everything, and you're doing the curating. I've got a team member, I've got a couple people working on this. And so what we do inside of our Slack, we literally have a channel for this. Let me see if I can bring this up. Okay, so we literally have a channel here inside of Slack where we're just aggregating everything. So a few of us are constantly aggregating things. We'll lay out the entry deadline, and then when that next newsletter is going out. We're just doing this every other week. I think we're gonna probably start doing this every week, just because there's just so much content related to entrepreneurship, motivation, to our industry. We have so much, and we're putting together, 4 or 5 pieces of content on there. So I think like something like this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they've got a bunch of other things in here, which we might explore doing down the road. But again, I think this is huge for top of funnel, getting them onto your newsletter, and then whatever sort of way you want to drive your audience, whether it's to click on your sponsors, to if you're doing, if you're building a list, or a newsletter only and building an audience, or you're driving them towards some of your services. There's a lot of people who end up actually selling their newsletter. I know that something was sold to Sephora. Newsletter sold to Sephora. I don't know what it was called. But yeah, there was something, I believe, that Sephora bought for quite a bit of money, I believe. But anyways, yeah, they had a similar thing going on, where it was just sort of newsletter. So anyways, I'll get back to you guys to see if this continues to work out really well for us. But